Yeah, good morning, everyone. Myself, Ch.V.V. Raju, Department of Information Technology. Just I want to give a basic introduction about language fundamentals of Python programming. Just up to some extent, what we can cover the agenda. Just we need to represent, and I'm thankful to MLRITM giving this opportunity. Just I want to start with the basic fundamentals of Python programming. Yes, with the introduction with identifiers and what is meant by keywords and what is meant by data types. Just data types, up to what extent I can cover, just I can cover it, and we can discuss with each and every representation with the small values and small examples possibility of the dependency of Python basic language fundamentals, right? Just what we need to understand, if I talk with the introduction of identifiers, as we know, all we have some names with persons. Similarly, the original names will be not called in your family members. Then what is exactly, if I want to identify actual representation of identifier means, I need to talk about with each and every individual name. Means if I can take a name as variable or function or a classes or any declarations as a identifier in the part of a Python programming language. Then here we need to follow some rules. Then what are the different rules I want to take here? Means just if an identifier can combination of, just I can take with a combination of numbers with it, I can take it with 0 to 9, and I can use with lowercase letters and uppercase letters. This is the one of the first rule what we need to follow. Yes, then what is the use of this identifiers advantage means, then in general case I want to talk with these uppercase letters or lowercase letters as an identifier, I can take it and the numbers 0 to 9, and the specification of the rule, just whenever if I want to take it with only allowed special characters. Just if I compare with C and Java, and moreover your Python is a mix of all languages with the combination of certain languages. Then if I take with the C, just I can have with what I can specify with only a dollar symbol, special symbol, and in sorry, in C we can specify with only just simply underscore, right? Just let me change with this. In C it is only underscore. Java, here underscore, and in Java just I can use with underscore as well as a dollar, right? But in Python just I can use with only underscore, just like this. Here if I want to use underscore, I cannot represent with any specific names. Then here what is the one more rule, identifiers are case sensitive. Then what is meant by case sensitive, just if I want to use then with uppercase and lowercase letters, then the representation of just if I write I can write Raj like this, and is equals to some 10 if I want to take as an identifier. Then I can take same Raj as a word, but here I will be taking with a 10. But in this first example, just R is capital, and something like, just whenever if I want to take with a RAG lowercase letters, then here both the words are same. But while both the words are same, still I want to recognize as which one is taking with a lowercase and which one is taking with a uppercase. Like that, just I need to be careful to identify the rules. Then keywords cannot be used as identifiers. Then so what we need to understand about keywords is nothing but we have some specific keyword, something like I want to write it as if. Then the same if I write with a capital thing, just it is valid. But if I write if with small letters lowercase, it will be identified as a keywords. Like that, just if I want to specify, your keywords cannot be used. Then here in this case only, just we are understanding about keywords. Then what is your keywords in Python? In Java approximately we have some 53 keywords. In Python, while comparing with the language to language, in Python we have 35 keywords. Then in this 35 keywords, except 3 means your true, false and none. True, false and none, except these three all remaining keywords will be taken with lower case letters. Then why this true, false and none, it will be identified as your boolean types, and none is a replacement of null value here, and my true every time T should be capital, and false F should be capital, and none N should be capital. Like this, just the keywords if I want to specify, and to see, or no need to remember all these keywords. Then in Python we have a flexibility, easy to understand the language. Then what I can add here, just I can use with the import keyword, and I can use the command keyword dot kwd list, and I can list all the number of keywords that are available in the Python representation. Yes, like that. Just we have some next concept, just we need to talk it with the part of something like what is meant by built-in functions. Then what is the use of this built-in functions? I'm not talking with all the built-in functions, basic built-in functions generally to represent or to print the values. Then here my built-in functions, first one we need to check it with a print statement. Then what is the use of a print? What I'm writing, print of, simply I'm saying hi. Then if I'm writing with hi, then this hi will be printed in the output. Then what is the use of this print message here? Whenever the print is a standard output function which is used to display on the monitor. Then similarly I can use with the type. Then what I'm writing here, if I want to use the type, I am writing some declaration a is equals to 10. Then in C or Java, if I want to specify this a is equals to 10, I need to declare my data type as integer. But in Python, it is not necessary. Inbuilt, the PVM will be taken care because of the data types will be recognized because it is a dynamically programmed language. Then for that reason, if I want to take type of A, then in the output it throws with what? Simply class with what? Int. Like this it will be specified, class integer. Then this is the reference where we will be getting while executing the command with the type of A. Then the same variable what I have declared a is equals to 10. Then this a value of your variable, if I want to find the address, if I want to find the address of the given variable, or the object reference, and moreover in the basic introduction of Python, every declaration of variable or any value, it will be identified as an object. Then in simple representation, what is meant by an object? This pen is an object. And similarly, if I want to type it anything data, or whenever if I'm writing on board something, my chalk piece is an object and board is as an object. Then in simple terms, how I can define an object? Yes, it is an real world entity or a thing which exhibits certain properties and behavior. Then I can call it as what? Simply an object. But according to one more the textbook definitions in simple way, if I want to define, it is nothing but instance of a class. That is the reason why in your Python everything will be treated as an object. So then what is meant by, in simple terms, what is meant by a class? Then class is a, simple terms, class is a combination of I can specify with data variables and methods. Data variables and methods. Like this I can specify the declaration, right? Then like that here, whenever I'm using the type of a function in the Python, then if I write a type of A as an example, right, we are throwing as class integer. That is the reason why according to the inbuilt functions in your Python, everything will be treated as an object, right? Like that we need to see the addresses. Then I can go with which function, id of A. Then default in the memory PVM will be, means Python virtual machine throws along with the compiler with a default address. Then we can identify as an object reference. Now the same example here, if I want to consider with some A is equals to 10, I am taking one more variable called as 10 B. I have taken two different variables, A variable and B variable, and my A value is 10 and B value is 10. Then both the cases my variables are same, A value and B value, and my value is same, it is 10 and 10. Then whenever if I'm talking about these two variables, of values 10 and 10. I need to specify the declaration of these things as an object. Then my reference of object will be same for these two addresses. Why? Because if I'm writing with what id of A, then id of B, if I'm printing, then the both the addresses will be same. Both the addresses will be same. Why? Because the declaration of the specification of variables are different, but still my value is same. Means my value means the object of references will be same. Like that, just I need to understand about built-in functions. With the first one with a print function, then another one is what, to identify the type, and one more it is id and is instance. Is instance or is a reference of another indication for what, to identify the object of an particular class. Like that, just we need to identify with what is meant by what is an Python identifier, and how we can identify, and we are using what are those meant by keyword. We are listing with some of keywords with a import keyword.kw list, and some basic built-in functions. We have more functions, but in a basic implementation, if I want to print with my values, then I can use with a print function, and one more it is a type, and one more is what, reference of your id address and is instance to identify a particular class. This is a simple introduction or basic language fundamentals. And with the continuation of that part, we have the part of data types. Yes, approximately we have 14 data types here, but among that, before that, we need to understand what is meant by data type and what is meant by a data. Is data, and we are want to specify type. Then in general, if I want to talk about data, data is a collection of information which can be anything in the form of raw facts and figures. But if I define like this, then the complete data, it won't be understood by the system. Then in the system specified language, only understandable with the zeros and ones. In that case, if I want to convert, then my data should be converted with their respective types. For that, we are introducing with a small concept called as what, data types. Means in the system, the memory allocation should be done. Sir, then what is the data type? Mainly it represents with the 3 points. In data types, we can represent with the 3 points. First one is what, size. So then why we are going with the part of size? Then what is meant by memory, and what is the need of going for expression? Then if I want to implement all these things, we require data types. Then the which type of data present inside? For that, just we can take a small example like some building materials. If I take the data something like as building materials, then is this an example? If I'm taking building materials, then for construction of a building, then what are the minimum requirements we need to take? What are the minimum requirements we need to take? My minimum requirements, I need to choose with what, something like, first I need to construct a building, the materials I need to require something like sand, then something like a cement, and for the sand item, all these things I'm making some heading as items, and I'm taking something like a quantity and something like a price. Then here, what are my items I want to take? Stand, cement. Then once again, I want to take it with something like iron and something small, bricks. Right? Then after taking with this, if I want to choose with the quantity, then what is the quantity I need to choose? Sand. Every time it will be taking in the form of some quintals, right? And some price I'm taking randomly some 10,000 like that for value. And cement, just I require for construction of building some 50 kgs, and I want to specify the declaration of each price of the bag is something like 250 or 280. And iron, I want some 100 kgs, and some cost I'm taking with 300 rupees, and bricks I want some 1000, and each brick is something like 3.5, like this. Then the data, if I'm considering like this, then this data directly it is cannot understand easily. in the programming language. Then to convert this, for this given data, what are the different columns or attributes if I'm choosing for that data of that identifier names, I need to require a prescribed data types. Then in programming language, we have different data types. Now, if I take as a column of items, then items we have sand, cement, iron and bricks. All are taking with the combination of characters. Combination of characters. Then I can take with which data type? Char data type. Yes, like that just we need to understand with the significance of your data types. Means similarly, if I take with one more variable called as what? Quantity. Then quantity every time it is taking in the numbers. Then for these type of data, I need to take at your data type as integer. Then what is the next one? It is price. For your price, then here the one thing we need to be careful, price can be in the form of some numbers and some decimal points also. Then whenever if I am having with a decimal point values, the declaration should be taken in the form of float. Yes, for these type of usages, if I want to implement, then I can go to the concept called as data types. Then here that is the thing, and moreover, for a simple variables in Python, no need to declare variables. Internally, the compiler provides your execution for data types. A is equals to 10 if I take, then automatically the type of A if I write, then what it takes, something like class int, like this I can take with your data types. Means here still if I have internally taking, then while specifying with the programming languages, if I want to write a little bit lengthy programs, then compulsory I need to read the input from the keyboard, means I need to specify the specific data types. For that reason, we need to understand in each and every programming language what is the use and importance of data types. Like that here also just we are listing with some certain data types, approximately 14 data types. Then what is meant by integer, and on the integer what is the different conversions we need to take, and what is meant by string. All these things I need to specify with the small declarations. For that just we need to take it with these are my data types. Then whenever if I want to talk with the data types, here in the part of data types, once again in numbers we are dividing some three categories. In numbers we have with integer, float and complex, and a dictionary and boolean, range and none. Then in this according to the diagram sequences, we are taking with the list, string, bytes and byte arrays. But whenever if I want to talk individual all these things, then we need to understand with the basic number notations, and in the number notations I need to introduce with data types with integer. Then what is the use of integer data type? I will be specifying with int. Then int means what I can write, every time I will be writing a is equals to some 8. Now 8 will be identified as what? Without points if I am taking, then I can identify it is an integer variable. Then this integer variable, if I want to identify or if I want to print it, then I can how I can identify type of a, or I can also write it as print of type of a, print of type of a. Like this just I can print it with a small declaration. Then what is the more advantage of numbers in the integer data type? Means I can represent with your numbers can be converted into any one of the forms, something like your binary, octal or hexadecimal values. Then if I take an example of something like x is equals to some 0b some 1111. Now what is the case if I'm writing 0b? Means it is an indication of whenever if I'm prefixing with 0b small or 0b capital, then it is a notation of binary representation, right? And this value if I want to print it as some print of x, if I'm writing, then what is the value it will be converted, every time it will be converted into decimal forms. Then if print of x, if I print it, then my value of all ones, it will be 15, right? So then this is the binary representation. It is represented in the values of 1, means I can write it as 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 power square and 2 power cube. Then if I add with these all values, then approximately that value will be printed as 15. But the conversions will be implemented in the form of DLD. But here in the programming, directly, if I know the representation and that value of the function, if I want to usage, then directly I can print it. Then what is the value I'm writing here? Print of x, I am getting with 15. And similarly, if I want to talk it with what is meant by octal, my octal values every time it takes up to 0 to 7, totally my values will be considered up to 8. And this notation of octal, I'll be taking with 0 O or 0 capital O. The means the value, whenever if I'm writing, it should be prefixed. It means something like same x value I'm taking, then prefix of 0 O, I can write it with some value. Then what I can take here, just I can write 1 2 like this, then it will be converted into octal. Yes, the specification of octal will be 0 O or 0 capital O. Means in similarly, if I want to convert the value of a hexadecimal, then what is your hexadecimal value? I want to take 0x or 0 capital X. Means hexadecimal values, my notations of the numbers will be taken from 0 to 9. Means totally it is 16 bits. Then I will be taking from 0 to 15, and from 0 to 9 it takes up to 10 values. Then from your 10, 11, 12, etc. it takes with your values from A to F. Means either it can be indicated in lowercase and uppercase. But if I write some x is equals to 0x of some FACE face, then the value will be printed with some value. F will be 15 and A value will be some 10. Then I am converting with the hexadecimal. Then here, but the same notation if I take with a 0x of some rat, RAT if I take, then R and T are not combination of characters of a hexadecimal representation. In this case, I will be getting as error. In this case, I will getting with an error. Like that, just I want to identify the given types with the specification of your values. Then here the same thing, just if I want to indicate with all these hexadecimal data types in the part of integer, everything will be converted in the form of what simple forms, either into form of decimal. But in Python we have a flexibility by using the base conversions. I can convert from any type to any types. Then if I have given my values in decimal, then I can convert into binary, octal and hexadecimal. But if I have given all the values, I want hexadecimal value I have given, and some octal value I have given, and binary value I have given, then I want to convert into decimal. For that we have some functions, base conversion functions. One is what? Binary function. Means whenever if I am using binary function, remaining all three combinations I will be taking. Either it will be taken in integer, octal or something like your hexadecimal. Now these three notations I can convert into binary. Similarly, binary function I can use with the binary values, and similarly I can use it with a octal, and I can take it with a specification of integral values, and this is the one new representation. Previously, these conversions of specifications of integer function is not available in C or Java, but I can write this integer function especially with the notation of your values using your binary or octal or hexadecimal in Python, but it is not provided in C directly, but we can convert. Yes, like this, just the first basic notation of your data type we are understanding with integer without point values, with from any digit values. If you want to take from 0 to 9, then I can go with your integer data type. And similarly, we need to understand under the numbers with the second part of your data type is what? It is float. Then what is the use of float? Then float can be used for the representation of your values with points. Then as we know, in the part of some C or Python or Java, if I compare, means the programming languages we are introducing, but each and every programming language will be having their own importance. Means comparisons means the syntaxes we need to identify, but each and every programming language will be having their own advantages. But to make it easy understandings, if you have a basic knowledge on C or Java, then the reference of Python will be easy. But still, if you don't have any knowledge of C or Java also, you can understand easily with the Python notations and syntaxes when you're good at basic terminologies. And in that regarding itself, your float means what I can take. Float is I can take it with f is equals to some 3.14 pi value. Then if I take it with 3.14 pi value, then with the points if I want to specify, then float it is recognized with the point values, and I can take it with the notification with the floating, especially in exponential form also here. Means I can write some x is equals to 1.5 e power e2. Then I can take it as your exponential form. Yes, this is your float. But in Java we have a double and a char. But in Python we don't have any double and char. Simply we have the references of numbers with integer numbers, and we have one more new implementation of a data type called as a complex. Then what is the use of this complex data type? Then your complex is also just what I can write, x is equals to some x plus yj. Already the notation we are written, but according to mathematical form, if I write x is equals to x plus, generally I will write iy, because I is an imaginary part. But in Python, if I write except with j, if I write with any other combinations like x is equals to some a plus ky, then this is invalid. And if I write x is equals to some a plus then qy, if I write, it is invalid. The only accepted notation is what? X is equals to x plus yj. Then here your x is will be called as what? Real part, and y is called as imaginary part. And this both real and imaginary parts, just I can use it as with both the data types called as either integer I can use or float I can use. And for your complex notations, I can perform with addition and deletion also. Then consider as an example what I can take, x is equals to some 10 plus 20j, and y is equals to 30 plus some 40j, like this. Then I can write directly x plus y if I want to perform, or print of x plus y. Then consider I want to write it as print of x plus y. Then x plus y means 10 plus 30. Then what is the output I'll get? 40 plus 60j is the output. Yes, like that I can perform all arithmetic operations on complex numbers with x plus y and x minus y, and multiplication, division, all the specification of your values we need to identify. And I can take with zeros also. I can take it with 0 plus 0j, means for your both real and imaginary parts I can take it with 0 plus 0j. And I can, if I printed this value, then I'll get with what? Print of x if I write, then I'll get with 0j, means 0 plus 0j, it will be taken with 0j. Like this, just we can use complex numbers with the references of your variables. Then under the part of your data types itself, we need to understand with the next data type called as what? Boolean. Then what is this Boolean value? Every time you need to check whether only the given value is either true or false, and every time the true will be indicated with 1 and false will be indicated with a 0, right? Then here this true value and false values, whenever if I am writing, you need to be careful. Already as discussed, compulsory your true and false values, T should be capital and F should be capital. Then if I write x is equals to true, then something like x is equals to small true I am writing, then simply you will be getting an error, because still it is a keyword. Then true, false and none, it has to be represented with the first letter as capital. Then for this case here, while printing, what I am writing, print of x if I write, then I will get an error. But to overcome this problem, what I need to declare, x is equals to capital true, I need to write it, and I need to take with some example. If I am taking x is equals to 10, or the same example it is taken 30, and z is equals to x greater than y, the same example I am taking. Then in this case, if I want to return my value, Boolean value, then I want to print with z, I have written. But whenever if I'm writing print of z, I need to check my condition. What is my x value? It is 10 and y value is 30. But my x value is smaller than y. Then if my condition becomes false, then I need to return with the output called as false. Like this, just we need to identify with a combination of your data types with a boolean, and one more, it is the next data type when we are talking about string. Then string is nothing but a sequence of characters together or combination of characters together. Then I can call it as what? A string. And my string can be represented in single quotations, double quotations, or triple quotations. As an example, we are given with some string. If I want to write s is equals to, I want to write it my name Raj, either I can write it in single quotation and I can write it in double quotations as Raj, or in triple quotations for doc strings, right? Used in Python to take with the multiple lines. Then I can take it with some triple quotations. And for there is no char data type here. Simply we will be using with a string representation, and here with the string representation, my accessing of elements can be done in two cases. One is what? With the specification of indexing and slicing. And slicing is the one of the important part whenever if I want to find out the substrings of the given string. Especially we have two implementations of accessing the strings. One is slicing and another one is what? Indexing. Then if I want to take with accessing characters in a string, then my string will be taken with the indexing of your values, and beyond the size of index if I'm trying to print, then I'll get a index error. But can I use floats? Means in string floating point representations cannot be valid. Just I need to take with only decimal integer values. Then at that time if I'm taking with the float something like 1.0, then I'll be getting an error. Yes, let me take with a small example accessing with the values. Then consider I'm taking with s is equals to my name something like a Raju as my string. Then if I start with my indexing of your values, then I'm taking as R, A, J and U. And here in a representation of a string in Python, we will be having positive indexing and negative indexing. Every time my indexing starts from 0, 1, 2, 3 and -1, -2, -3 and -4. Then if I'm taking with this indexing, from this indexing if I want to print with the values, then consider if I want to print s of 0, then directly, or print s of 0, then directly my output will be printed as what? R. Then similarly if I want to print with s of -2, then -2 we have with the value called as j, then R, like this means s of 0. Then I can take it with the positive indexing and negative indexing with the specification of while accessing with the string. With the first one it is indexing. And as I told, just if I want to represent with some s of some 5, print s of 5. Then what about s of 5 here? There is no, my indexing it is taken from 0, 1, 2, 3 and length of the string is only 4. But beyond the size of the string if I'm taking, then it throws with which error? Index error. Index error. And in place of indexing with the positive and negative indexing, if I take something like a s of some 5.1 like this, right? My indexing already told, just it will be not accepted with the floating point representations still. But if I declare, but here in this case I'll not get a index error, but I'll get with which error? I'll get with a type error. Already the point is mentioned. Yes, like that, just simply examples I can take with a string specification. Then this continuation we need to understand about first one we are understood about indexing, and the next one is what? Slicing, one of the important part, right? The data types accessing with your slice operator. So then how I can write the syntax of slice operator? With the square brackets in between it's separated by exactly 2 colons. Then I can call it as what? A slice operator. It will be given with what? Start and end, or begin or end. I can use with any representations, begin or end, or start or end. Then while writing with this syntaxes, we need to specify with 3 representations. If I give begin and end, then it takes with complete substring of the given string. And if I gave begin but I'm not representing with end, then it goes with the complete representation of the string. But we need to careful every time while specifying your end value. Means what happens here, every time it goes, it will not go up to the last element, it goes up to the end minus 1, it goes up to end minus 1 elements, like that. Just whenever if I'm specifying the end value, it will not go up to the last character of the string, it goes with a last but one of the given string. And similarly, what I can take, I can take with a begin and end directly. Yes, without begin, and if I'm going with end, then it goes up to 0th position to end minus 1. But if I take something like a begin and I'm not specifying with your end value, then it goes up to the last of the string. Like that, just we need to check with a small example. Yes, here let me write with a small, is just here I want to take with some string called as some string. I am taking S is equals to Swagat, SWAGATH, right? Then here this in this string, now if I want to take it with a slice operator of values like this with the negative indexing and a positive, S W A G A T and H, I taken like this Swagat as a string, and I need to provide some positive indexing and negative indexing. Then what I can choose here, my indexing, it starts from every time 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and my negative indexing starts from -1, -2, -3, and -4, -5, -6, and -7. Then if I provide like this with the 0 to 6 and -1 to 7, guys, we need to be careful with the negative indexing. From -1 to -7 I can go, but while going with the negative indexing, it is going in reverse direction from last value to first. But while reading with the characters, I need to go it in the forward direction itself. But while going in the backward, I'll get with the empty strings while writing with the negative indexing. Now with this, just we can take with a small example of what just I can specify with the declaration S of some string. I want to write it with some 2 to 4. Now my starting value is what? 2, and end value is 4. But my end, if I write 4 also, it should be end minus 1. Then it is up to 3. Then what I can take here? 2 to 4. What I can specify? I can specify with 2 means at 2 index what we are taking A, and what is the value up to 3? It is G. Then simply I will get the output as what? A G. But the same example, if I am taking with S of some 0 to 5. 0 to 5 means what? Up to end minus 1 means up to 4th index I need to consider. From 0 we have with what? S W A G A, like this we will be getting. Then this is the simple indication of your values of, if I take with the slice operator with S0 to 5, and if I take a S of without beginning with directly, I am taking up to some 3. Beginning value I have not mentioned, but if I am not mentioning the beginning value, what do we need to understand? Just it starts from 0 and end value I have mentioned. Then it is what? End minus 1. End minus means what? Up to, just I can take 3 means end minus 1 2. Then simply I'll get with what? SWA is the string I'll be getting as my output. Then I can choose with one more example, something like I want to take as something like a S of with your value something like just I want to take it with just beginning with a 2, but I'm not specifying with your end value. Then here I will be taking with what 2 colon specification, means from your 2 index I need to end up to all the strings. Then what I'll get A G A T H is the output. And previously in indexing beyond the size of indexing, if I'm taking, I'm getting an error. But here what I will be taking here, just because of start and beginning, I can write it with what some 0 to some 25 take also. Then what is the output? I'll get a complete string. Then similarly what I'll be taking, s of something like a minus 22 your minus 1. Now we need to be careful. Yes, in my string we have only minus 7, minus 6, 5, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2 and minus 1. But still I have given up to minus 22 minus 1. Then in this specification, minus 22 colon of minus 1, if I want to specify with the value, the declaration should be taken into the consideration. Still it takes from minus 1 7 to minus 1, means end value I was specified as minus 1, but still it will be going with the less than the character. Now in this case, what is the output I will be printing? I will be printing with SWA GAT, means except H, you will printing with all the values. And similarly, if I'm writing with something like minus 4 to minus 1, then S of minus 4 to minus 1, then minus 4 it starts, means beginning value G, A and T, up to 2 it will be taking, because H of minus 1 it will won't consider, means end minus 1. Then I'll get with GA T. Like this, just we need to understand with the small representation of your indexing and slice operator. And this slice operator I can also use it with what step, means how I can write begin colon end colon, we can call it as step or stride. Step or stride means we can leave in between characters, and we can see with some examples. This is the some small brief introduction of your language fundamentals. I have talked with some general basic data types. Still we have more data types. Then like this, just we can take, and in general this basic fundamentals of your Python, where we can use in the data analysis and data visualization and machine learning and automation scripting languages, and with the different editors we can use. These are the real time applications as data visualization to convert into GUI. Like that we can use different representations, and some these references just are taken from some ORG or like that, from references. And these are the some basic notations and examples of basic fundamentals of Python programming. Thank you.